In this video, we're going to talk about MyCap. MyCap is a REDCap module that ties in with an application a participant can download from the Google Play or Apple Play stores. It is an extremely participant-friendly interface for taking REDCap surveys, especially on an ongoing basis. You can start by creating the project in REDCap or in MyCap. We're going to look at the MyCap side for now. When a project's been created, you can start by giving the About information. So you're going to give it a title, display what the content is, and then you can upload a customized image to associate with the project. This will appear as an icon next to the project name or the participants in the application. That way, if they happen to be involved in more than one MyCap project, they have an easy visual cue as to which project they want to be doing an entry for. You can also set up About information with an About page title and some content. We'll see more about what all this looks like once we pull up the application itself. Then you can add participants to the project. You can add them in the REDCap database or in MyCap itself. To add the participant in MyCap, you just click New and create the participant. Now, for the participant to sync the project database with their device, they'll just scan this QR code. Each participant will also get an install date and a baseline date that you can use to base the surveys off of. The install date is the date that they installed the application. The baseline date is another date in the project that you might want to base when all of their surveys are available. For example, a common baseline date would be the date of consent. When there are changes or updates to your project, you can push out announcements to all of your participants with one item. This sends the announcement to all project participants so that they can know what's going on with your project. The next step, then, is to do some setup. When a participant adds the application to their device, they'll be asked to do some setup questions. This can include the baseline date that you're asking for. It can include some basic instructions on setting up the project. And then it will just have some basic yes/no questions that you can put in to establish dates and setup for the project. Tasks in MyCap are the forms and surveys that you're going to have your participants fill out, or potentially active tasks that you have them take. You'll create the tasks in REDCap itself. So in the Online Designer here, you can see that my list of tasks is the same as what you see in MyCap. The only difference is in REDCap I also have this participants. That ties back to the participants page here. When you set up a task in MyCap, you can choose whether or not it's active. If you want to collect data for the instrument, you give it a title, and then you say if you want it to be as a questionnaire or as a form. A questionnaire will just give you one question at a time. A form gives you everything at once. And then you can see each one will have a card display. You can show it as a % complete, or you could show it as a chart. For example, if you're tracking weight and you're having the participant enter their weight every day, you could show that as a chart so they can easily see changes over time. Down here we have some extra options. We can choose to allow for retroactive completion and save and return later. We can choose if we want an instruction and a completion set. If we want those steps, we have to fill in the content here. Beyond that, we have to choose how we want to schedule each task. So we can base these schedules off of the install date, when the participant installed the application, or the baseline date that we established. Then we can make it a one-time task, something that happens infinitely, something that's repeating, so once a day for a certain number of occurrences. For repeating tasks, you can choose if you want them to repeat daily, weekly, or monthly, how many times you want them to repeat. And then we also have the option of a fixed task, a task that should occur on certain specific days of the study to a limited extent. For all of these items, we get to choose how many days it's delayed from that relative date that we chose. So if you want this to initially come out 2 weeks after the baseline date, you would have the delay, you would set relative to baseline date and the delay to 14 days. Finally, for a repeating task or an infinite task, you can choose when it ends. Never, after a certain number of occurrences, after a certain number of days, or on a specific date. MyCap also has some active tasks. Most of these are tied with the Apple's Research Kit. They are broader tasks that you might be interested in gathering information on. The only one that is also available on Android is the tapping speed test. You can also set up contact information. So this will tell your participants if they have any issues, who they can contact, how to reach them, and any additional websites you might want them to be aware of. You can also set up a variety of extra links that they can visit, perhaps informational items about the subject you're doing research on. Currently only available on Apple devices, you can also set the theme. You can choose from several defaults, or you can customize one of your own, using HTML codes for colors. Anytime you make changes to your project, you'll need to publish a new version. This will push out the changes that you've made to all of your participants. For help with your project, there is a great help document included with MyCap that walks through virtually everything I've talked about thus far. And finally, you can jump to the project in REDCap. The REDCap project will be set up like virtually any REDCap project you have. However, it is tied to your MyCap project, primarily by the use of action tags. This participants form under some name is required to link the participants in MyCap to your participants in REDCap. It uses a special action tag to link specific fields to specific items in MyCap so that the two programs can talk to each other. This includes some MyCap-specific fields that you can't modify without interfering with the connection between REDCap and your database. Let's take a look at what MyCap looks like on the device. So here, you're going to find your MyCap application and enter your code. I would like to make it clear this is not my actual passcode. It is simply for demonstration purposes. I will be changing it after I complete the demonstration. And I strongly suggest that you have a stronger passcode than this. So this is the basic display scene that participants will see when they open MyCap. They can take a basic survey, and even capture an image. These tasks are set to infinite, so people can take it as many times as they want to. We also have the active task that we have set up, the two-finger tapping interval test. It goes through some brief instructions. And then the participant just taps back and forth. And I have it set up to do both hands. Because that particular task is not infinite, just repeating, you can now see it's marked at 100% for today. MyCap is capable of letting you send messages to each participant and letting participants message you. Right now, you will not receive a notification when a participant messages you. Because of that, we strongly suggest being very careful how you use this and promote this feature with your participants, because you are not guaranteed to receive an alert that you will see immediately when someone messages you. Here we have the support information that we put in, the about, and then an option to delete the project off of the device. Finally, participants can be enrolled in more than one MyCap project at a time, and they can have a list of all of those items. They can also join another project where, if it's their first time, they'll be prompted to scan a QR code, change their passcode, or even turn off the requirement for one if that is their decision, and then see the About information for MyCap. A note about how data is stored. When participants initially complete the task, the data is stored on their device until they have an internet connection where it can be synced with the REDCap project. Once that has happened, the data is removed from their device. It is very important to note that this flow of data is one way. It only goes from the device to REDCap. Participant data cannot be pushed from REDCap to the device. The participant data is stored locally on the device in an encrypted database, and it remains only if an internet connection is not available. How all this looks in REDCap then? We have the basic setup in the online designer where we can just go and build forms as we usually do. Then in the MyCap, under tasks, you enable them and set them up for your participant. A participant can be added in REDCap or in MyCap under the participants, but their device has to be synced with the MyCap project using the QR code generated within MyCap. When a participant does data entry, everything is saved as a repeating form. And each new instance is saved with supplemental information and the details of the fields they actually put in. The supplemental information at the top of this form was created by MyCap when I enabled this as a task in MyCap. It is not something that the person designing the project is responsible for creating. That is a brief overview of MyCap. MyCap is extremely participant-friendly, especially for long projects with lots of repeating measures where you want the participant to come back on a regular basis. The interface is extremely user-friendly and very straightforward for participants to understand. It is a little bit trickier to set up a MyCap project than it is just a base REDCap project. Because of this, we strongly recommend that if you are interested in using MyCap for your research project, that you contact a REDCap administrator and that we can meet and discuss the best way to set up your project and potentially help you with some of that initial startup process. We also recommend a great deal of testing of your MyCap project before you push it out to your participants. Because MyCap is a relatively new addition to REDCap and a very complex one, it does have a few limitations. Currently, longitudinal projects are not supported on MyCap, although this is something they're hoping to do in the future. Piping and HTML are not currently supported, but branching logic is. Most basic REDCap supported, but calculated fields, the e-signature fields, descriptive text, arrays and matrices are currently not. Finally, a quick note about who can use MyCap. So, in terms of being able to configure the app, such as setting tasks, the theme, the contacts, any REDCap user on the project with project design and setup right would be able to do that. For more basic items like viewing the dashboard, reading the help, and potentially creating messages and announcements, managing participants, REDCap users with view and edit and data entry rights would be able to do those basic tasks. So it's a pretty similar setup to how you would set up your REDCap project. Anyone you want doing project design or MyCap configuration needs project design and a full REDCap account on our system. People who are just going to be doing participant management, looking at the dashboard, potentially creating and sending out messages, that can be done with basic data entry level rights and a basic account on our system. This is just a brief overview of MyCap. We hope it'll be an extremely useful tool for you, and we look forward to helping you set up your research projects. Thank you.